Hey you guys, Susan Smith here. I'm going to chat for a few minutes and wait for folks to join. We were having real technical difficulty, I don't know why, connecting on the live session, so I'll wait for a few of you to come on over here and we'll edit this blank space off later. I do have some lovely mountain scenery behind me though, isn't that great? Checking. Still waiting. Well, while we're waiting, oh look, Lissa's here. Debbie, great. You guys are finding me. Fortunately, very fortunately, my husband happens to still be here this morning. He's not usually. And so he's able to type into the original live. We're not really sure what happened. It just was not streaming. So I had to abandon it altogether. Okay, more will be coming. Yay! There you guys are coming. Fantastic. Good morning. So of course I have no idea at what point, if any, you heard what I had to say. Probably not at all. So I'm just going to start afresh. Anyway, I'm Susan Smith. You are in my office today with my lovely quilt behind me. The mountains are calling. And today we're talking about, are we the right fit? I'm going to take a moment or two to introduce to you some of the story behind my freehand quilting masterclass and why I created it. And it came directly out of a need that I felt as a quilter. And I was pretty confident that other quilters are feeling the same need. So I created it to try and answer that need, those questions. And then I'm going to open this up today. It's dedicated to particularly those of you who are interested in the masterclass and have any questions at all about it. And I'm here to answer them for you. Let me add too, I've been coming live onto YouTube every day. I believe this is day 27 for a month. And tomorrow is our regular live and unscripted episode on YouTube. So tomorrow I'm going to make it also one, me sitting here in my office, and it's going to be Ask Me Anything. So this will be Ask Me Anything about machine quilting. It can be about fabrics or threads or tension or long arm machines, or I'll try to answer questions about sit down machines. I've done less of that, but some. Just ask me anything that you like and we'll just talk quilting tomorrow for an hour or two, as long as it takes. So that's what tomorrow will be. I'm seeing lots of you joining in. I'm so glad. Lissa, Debbie, Maureen, Teresa, Kathy, Tabithia, Quilts for Survivors, Elaine, Laura, Barbara. Great. So glad you found me over here. This is so good. Okay, Marie Suzanne is asking about how to start and stop when one quilts. I always get a bird's nest. Try and connect tomorrow. So I do have a video, and it's a short, I think, about starting and stopping that demonstrates it for you, so look that one up. But that's a great question for tomorrow. But today I don't want to go super duper long, so I want to kind of get to the topic at hand. So let me tell you just a minute or two about how my masterclass was born. So this is a few years back. I'd been quilting for some years already, had a few hundred customer quilts under my belt, and knew already that what I loved quilting was freehand work and typically edge to edge. So, quilting the same type of repeating design from one edge of the quilt to the other edge of the quilt. I love that much more than custom work. That is just what I love. So the idea of repetitive designs, that just appeals to the way my mind works. So figuring out efficient ways to do it, making it more graceful, developing these designs, I love doing that. However, I'm a member of a machine quilting guild, and every year this guild has a treasure challenge, which involves receiving either a vintage quilt top or at least vintage blocks, and then making that into a finished product, and then showing it at our local quilt show. So when this challenge happened, my assignment came to me in January and my vintage blocks that I received this particular year, and the quilt was due to be handed in at the end of September. So I had 9 months to figure out this project. Well, right off the bat, I had this vision of what I wanted to create. I wanted to do this kind of asymmetrical spacing of the blocks. I only had a few of them on a pretty background, and I envisioned this angled quilting as well. And I so knew what I wanted it to look like. And I also knew I didn't have the skill set yet to do it. I didn't have the really fine control and precision that I felt like I would need to do this detailed and intricate and beautiful quilting that I wanted, that I could see in my mind. So I started reading about first quilters and then other people and how they learn skills, particularly skills that are repeatable. So think golfers, think musicians, think calligraphers, hand lettering, this sort of thing. These are all skills that repeat. They, can be broken down into parts. And I started reading about how do people learn? How do they accelerate their learning? How do they take strides, in their skill level? And I started applying this to my quilting. And the happy news is, by the time July and August rolled around, I felt confident enough to load that quilt. And I did. And those of you who have followed me for any amount of time, that was Ava, the iris colored quilt. She's quite purpley with this asymmetrical grouping of vintage blocks throughout. So it was Ava that launched me on this. Now it is a highly detailed custom quilt, excuse me, but it was still the spark that ignited this desire to delve into how we learn and apply that to our quilting so that we don't necessarily have to spend 10 or 15 years figuring out how to quilt freehand. How can we do that much faster? So from that then came first off a small course called the Freehand Primer, in which I likened quilting very much to learning the process of handwriting. So learning foundational shapes like loops, like O's, learning sort of posture and symmetry and how to apply that to our quilting. That then got absorbed into my freehand quilting masterclass and is in fact one of the modules that's within it now. So if you happen to be listening and purchase the Freehand Primer or purchase it today because it's still available for sale, I also offer a coupon for the whole price against the masterclass because a similar lesson is included. But anyway, what the masterclass came to be then was, number one, on the surface, it's just over 30 different freehand quilting designs. So, feminine designs fit for a toddler or a teenaged girl. Outdoorsy designs fit for the outdoorsman or the hunter or the guys in your life. Some formal designs, some wild designs like flames, some sort of Victorian designs like paisleys and plumes, all kinds of designs. So that's what you see on the surface. But also within it is this analytical theme that I started to apply to my quilting. So when I look at an edge-to-edge design, or when I look at something in hotel carpeting, I use that example because so many of my quilting designs were born in a hotel carpet. But when I look at something like that, what do I look for? Like, what is the thing that changes it from an idea that I see? What makes it quiltable? What makes it repeatable without a pattern and generally without any kind of marking? So throughout the masterclass then runs this thread of what's the thought process behind this, and how can you apply this thought process to your own ideas so that you can create original quilting designs as well. And then sprinkled throughout are tools and tips from my quilting studio that can just save you time in figuring them out for yourself. Okay, I'm going to buzz back through a few of the comments and see if there are questions yet about this. Deborah, I happen to find custom work better for me than all over. For some reason, I have more trouble making an all over design flow well. I get stuck in places on the quilt, then have to break thread. Well, I will tell you this, Deborah, that is one of the topics for sure in the masterclass because it does focus more heavily on quilting edge-to-edge designs on a quilt. There is some content that relates to how could you change this up to use it in custom quilting, or there are elements that you would apply in custom quilting. But certainly my focus is on the type of quilting that I love. And I've worked that out too. I've applied this same analytical process to that. Like, how do you move around a quilt top and not sort of quilt yourself into a corner? We used to say paint yourself into a corner, right? You do want to avoid that. There are ways to get out of it, and I'll give you one right now. Echoing. Lots of designs you can literally quilt and echo around it, and in that way travel to the new area where you want to be. Another one, pause. And before you quilt a big old motif in there, pause and look ahead. Where do I need to go? Maybe how do I enter this so that I exit it on the side where I want to go? How do I get to that area I need to fill in? And sort of plan your path before you dive into the quilting can really help too. Petra, for me, the masterclass was the perfect base to build upon to overcome the fears of going ahead and quilting. I can recommend it very much. Thank you, Petra, for those kind words. And this is what I hear from students, and this is what makes my heart honestly happy, because the whole purpose was I saw these needs, I saw these difficult to overcome things in my own quilting journey, and the whole purpose was to make it easier for you to overcome those same difficulties. So to help you make decisions, make choices, and know why you make those choices, because that's what gives you confidence then when you stand at your sewing machine or your long arm and start quilting. Passion fruit, you have Q-Matic, which does E to E for you. Do you use it much? The Q-Matic, for one thing, is very new to me. I've had it for less than a year. But even so, less than 10% of my quilting is done with that Q-Matic system. And at this point, none of my custom quilting. I find it more time consuming and honestly frustrating to set up than to just do it myself. And let me just insert here too. One of the reasons that I love doing edge-to-edge quilting out of my head as opposed to a computerized or robotic system is that I find it so fast, especially for lap quilts and smaller. It is so fast to just load a quilt and start quilting. Start at the top corner and make passes down the quilt till it's done. I promise you, if you put me head to head with someone at their automatic system and we were each given a lap quilt to quilt, I promise you I could finish it 25% less time, maybe better. Just because I don't have to pre-mark, I don't have to plan my repeats, I don't have to size it or trim the edges. I don't even honestly have to worry about how perfectly square the quilt is because I'm in control of where the needle is going. It's so fast and so freeing. And I don't love technology, so that it's a learning curve for me to even learn to use the Q-Matic. And I set out to do it, again, because I'm teaching for Bernina and I wanted to be able to help students. That was my whole reason for doing it. But it's not what I love. So it's not enjoyable for me to get down there and start fiddling with features and how do I do this and how do I do that. So, know your style as a quilter. And, in the lines of, are we the right fit? My style of quilting is not for everyone. So if you do love technology, if you do love the puzzle, the challenge of doing that, maybe this is not the right fit for you and something else is. So I don't want to say this is for everyone, but I do want to say if you want to do it, everyone can. Absolutely. Okay, moving back a little bit. Carla, good morning. Thea, highly recommend the masterclass. So many small ideas, things we don't think of. Slow down, think ahead. My frame wasn't tall enough for me. Yep, adjusting the height of your frame. So yes. Again, I do offer, and this is a more recent addition to the masterclass, I now offer a weekly live Q&A session with me for 6 weeks. And so there's opportunity to, as you're getting into those class materials, to ask questions about them. So if there's things I missed in that initial recording, because of course there is, I can't say everything in a short video, but if there's anything that I missed, we can talk about it live. And as you get doing something, questions always arise. So that's what those Q&As are really good for. Cheryl says, looking forward to the class, but haven't received the link yet. Cheryl, maybe drop me an email, because you absolutely should have. It should happen within a few minutes, and we'll try and get to the bottom of that. Thea, it's nice to ditch the handmade pantograph / laser and feel confident enough to freehand. It is, Thea, and I'm curious, is that because you enjoy the freedom of it? Is that because you find it faster? Why is it nice to you to be able to ditch that? Nancy, looking forward to the why more than the what in the design. I'm happy to hear that, Nancy. I did include this huge variety of patterns because many people are just looking for, I need a repertoire. But I also think it can be a springboard, right? When you start to see how many there are, how many variations, and yet how unique, it makes your mind start turning, oh, hey, if I can do this, then I can do that. My all over feather, which lots and lots of you who follow me have taken, it's a free class for an all over meandering feather design. I've done several variations on that. One of them is called boomerang. So instead of the feather plume shape, I made this 3-cornered kind of shape, but it follows the same overall stitching path on the quilt, right? And recently I did another one that has a leafy shape. So as time goes on, right, this is how the ideas come. You start with this design, and then you add, you embellish, or you change, or you elongate, and so that's part of the masterclass too. What are the features of a quilting design, and how could you change that up to make 3 or 4 different variations of it? Sorry, I get a little excited about this. This to me is the fun of quilting. Marie Suzanne, so looking forward to being a more confident quilter. We got you. It'll happen. Kimberly Moore, I changed from Bernina Q20, must have been Q20 to 24. I've only used Q-matic one time. Free motion is way less boring. I mean, Q-matic has its place, I'll be honest. It is nice sometimes to be able to set up a quilt, and then while it's stitching, I can go and like answer emails or make coffee or do whatever. But free motion is really, really fun. Robin just signed up. Can't wait to get started. Tomorrow's the day, you guys. First lesson drops tomorrow. And if by chance you're watching from Australia or that side of the world, it actually starts for you later today because it drops at midnight my time, which is earlier for you, which is kind of cool. Thea, nice to be able to use the creative mind instead of trying to follow a pattern on a panto. You know, again, pantos have their place. I don't mean this to bash any other style of quilting. To me, it's a bit like training wheels, right? So when you don't feel comfortable branching out freehand, it's a great tool. It's a great way to get familiar with the movement of your machine or the movement of a design. And it's even a great way for a design that's more complicated than you could kind of repeat just from memory. So it's a tool, but freehand is so, so fun. Thea, freedom, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's empowering. It is. It is. And it makes, you know, handmade quilts are handmade for a reason. We want them to look handmade. We want them to look unique. And quilting, much like handwriting, is unique. So you might quilt the same designs that I do, but you're apt to put your own flourish on it. And certainly it's just going to have your shape. I know this is true. I go to quilt shows and there are certain quilters, like I can walk through the show and not read a label, and certain quilts I can pick out and say, that is so-and-so's quilting, that is so-and-so's quilting. I recognize it. And probably people say the same thing about mine. It's as individual as handwriting, and that too is a beautiful thing. Diane, when does it start? I have travel plans in November. The first module drops tomorrow, Diane, and there's one each Friday until all 6 have been released. However, all the lessons are pre-recorded, so you can watch them whenever and you have access to them for forever. So it's not time sensitive in terms of when you have to attend. But my live Q&A sessions then start next week and run for 6 weeks. So those are more time sensitive. They're recorded as well, so you can come back to them. But if you want to attend them live, there is a time frame. So you can email questions in advance and I can still answer them, and you can watch them later. So there's ways around it, but that's the time sensitive portion, is my involvement in those 6 live sessions. Nancy, agree with Thea about the freedom. Excuse me. Angel, when taking the class in the Q&A, do we go through the modules one at a time, then do Q&As? Can you explain how it starts and how it goes? Do you mean how the modules go? Because if you have a question about that, I can answer it right now. The Q&A tends to be questions about loading the quilt, or questions about how tight should it be on the long arm, or questions about what thread do you recommend that I use for this type of fabric that I'm working on, those sorts of things. Thea, you being so involved on YouTube is priceless. There's that too. I'm on YouTube live frequently, so you can always find me to ask questions. Jean, is there a set day for the live sessions? Excuse me, there is, Jean, and tomorrow when the first module goes live, I'm going to email out the dates for those sessions. I've put them, 5 of them are on a Tuesday and 1 is on a Monday, this upcoming group, because they're fitting between my travel, and I do reserve the right to change them if I have to. So everybody will get a notification a day or 2 before and the link to join, and they alternate AM and PM, because I do have students all over the world, so that hopefully everyone can catch at least some of them, not in the middle of the night. Sandy, love the masterclass. Have you re-recorded now that Stella is living in your home? So Stella refers to my newer Bernina Longarm. One of the reasons I changed to a Bernina Longarm from a Gammill was for camera visibility. The Gammill has a big kind of headlight right where it was best to get a camera. But to answer your question, Sandy, I have not yet re-recorded. I keep thinking of things that I want to change and make better, and at some point I've just got to pull the trigger and just start re-recording. I do want to. I will say though that no matter when you purchase the masterclass, when new recordings are done or when new designs are added, I've added a couple since I initially published it, all of that is accessible to you. All those updates come to you free of charge. It just is part of the class. Robin, one of my problems is I just draw a blank when it comes to what to quilt. I don't have much imagination. Hoping the masterclass helps with that. I think that it will, Robin, because there's such a wide variety of designs. If you were enrolled in my free workshop last Saturday, it really addresses that because I talk through the questions that I ask myself when I'm looking at a quilt. Like, who is it for? Is it for a toddler? Certain designs are going to be more appropriate. Is it for a 17-year-old boy? A different design might be appropriate. Or looking at the fabric, does that give me any indicators? Is it some whimsical flowers, for example, that I could perhaps copy a little bit or quilt something like it? Or is it some more geometric line-based shapes? So fabric can be an indicator. So asking yourself questions can help you really narrow that down. But ultimately, Robin, I don't think there's one right design and everything else is wrong. I just think you ask a few of these questions, you pick a design, you quilt it, and you love it. Maybe you learn from it and think, gosh, I'd do a different one next time, but that's okay. There's not a wrong design. You're not going to wreck a quilt, I promise. Kathy, if I sign up for the primer class, how long will I have access to that class? That one you have forever too, Kathy. It does not come with the same like live Q&As and involvement, but the access remains the same. And when you purchase it, you'll receive a coupon code. If you decide to take the master class in future, you can apply the full purchase price against that. Good morning from Jana. Stoned but not alone. What's up, everyone? Huh, interesting. I think we'll just take that user off. Jamie, hello from Indiana. Okay, anyone else have questions that we want to talk about? So just a few more brass tacks about how it's delivered. The first module is going live tomorrow. Again, it's pre-recorded, so you can watch it at any time that you want to, tomorrow or Sunday or next week or whatever. And within each module, there are multiple small and short lessons. Most of them are 10 minutes or less, some of them much less. There are a couple that are what I call theory. So talking about the whys and wherefores and maybe tools, things like that. And then there are demonstrations of several designs, usually a grouping, a family of designs in each module. So module 1 is a lot of loopy type designs and various drop-ins and things that you can add to it. So that's kind of how module 1 looks. Then module 2 will be, again, some more theory, some more whys, some more thought processes, and then another family of designs. And in module 2 is the one that's about the idea of deliberate practice and how you can apply that to your quilting to help your skill level really rise. I can't think of the quote just now, but there was a musician one time that said, someone was asking him, how long should I practice to improve my violin skills? And he said, if you're just thoughtlessly practicing, you'll need all day. But if you're practicing with intention and with care and with thought and with focus, 2 hours will be plenty. So, that time frame, I don't know if that relates to quilting exactly, but I do know it's true. If you're just making loops willy-nilly all over your quilts, you can make 100,000 of them and they'll all look the same. But if you do one quilt and you're thinking about the circle portion, I want it round, I want it full, I want it symmetrical, I want them all the same size, you'll be better by the end of that quilt. It's that fast. So it's this idea of applying focus and intention and narrowing down what you're working on and improving your skill. A couple of you have mentioned that custom quilting is what you love. I do a certain amount of custom quilting too, and I also love it. It's very rewarding and it's very wow when it's done. But I think it's remarkable that my daily edge-to-edge quilting is where I practice my skill set. And then when I go to do a custom quilt, that skill set is in place. So I don't have to do 40 custom quilts to learn how to do custom quilts. Does that make sense? So using the bubbles as an example again, when you practice round bubbles and you practice large ones and small ones, then when you come to say work on a custom quilt and fill in a kind of pebble or clamshell type design, you already know how to make round bubbles. It's all there. So it comes so easily. So all these skills help you no matter what type of detailed or heirloom quilting you want to do in the future or occasionally or whatever. They all help you. It all comes into play. Robin just signed up. Yay, Robin, I'm so happy. Theo, again, it's nice to be able to use the creative mind instead of trying to follow a pattern on a panto. I feel like that one repeated. Oh yes, I've backed up. Sorry about that. Let me get into where we are now. Robin, draw blank. I don't know why my scroll went back so far. Diane, someone is taking magic mushrooms. They are. The more people that watch me, the more interesting folks that join, and sometimes you just have to close the door on them. Wendy Hale, masterclass is fantastic. For a slowpoke like me, it's wonderful to have all the classes available on demand. Right in the first module, I encourage my students, do not try to master every design or even necessarily to quilt every design. Pick one or two of your favorites out of the module, work on that one, apply it to a couple of baby quilts or lap quilts, get comfortable with it, move on to the next module with everybody else. You can always circle back and add another design as they appeal to you or as you have a quilt where it would be appropriate. So there's no behind, but there's also no, I'm a bit of a box ticker, right? But there is no need to tick off every design before you move on to the next one. Pick the ones you like out of each module. Cherry pick away. I'm happy with that. Jamie, I still struggle to find the best thread for my long arm. Again, great question to bring tomorrow to the Ask Me Anything. We can talk about thread, and I can tell you some of my favorites and why. I love explaining why. I'm sure I did show and tell every day when I was in kindergarten. I just can't help myself. Gail said earlier too, I have my quilt loaded and prepped for the master class. So good. Thea, once purchased Yours Forever, looking forward to going through it again. Yes, once you purchase the masterclass, I call it lifetime access. It's not really my lifetime. It's the lifetime of the course. So no matter what changes or additions I make, that is all accessible to you. And if someday in the future I decide to retire the course, I will make everything downloadable and reach out to everyone and let you know that so that you can actually download all the lesson material and have it on your own device. You know, for now, I don't think you'd want to do that because it's enormous because of all the video content, but I'll give you that option if the class ever goes away. Laura, I'm catching the next class. Great. I have lots of questions. I'm away from my machine currently. Good thinking, Laura. And enrollment, typically I've been doing it twice a year, spring and fall. So I do that just because I like to go through it with my students with these live sessions and give them that kind of boost for those first 6 weeks. So again, there's no deadline. There's nothing you have to keep up to. I'm just very present in the Facebook group and in those live sessions for 6 weeks just to get you going. So it's a good idea to wait until you do have a bit of dedicated time. Jennifer, excited to start tomorrow. Helen, do you think old dogs can learn new tricks? I'm 75. I absolutely do, Helen, and I'm curious if there's any others in this group now that would have something to say about that. I have a ton of students that are old dogs learning new tricks. I think the bulk of the demographic in my classes is over 65, for sure. I have 70 and 80-year-olds, absolutely. Gail, Helen, I'm 75 too. Good, you guys chime in and encourage Helen. Thea is mentioning that I have a very involved Facebook group too. People post and share, which is very fun. Yes, and the Facebook group may change in future, but for now it includes lots of alumni students. I don't close any of it to you, so you can look back at past months and knots of students and see what they've been doing and what they've been quilting, and you can get a bird's eye view of what's coming down the pike for you. Questions people have asked. I will sometimes share in there quilts that I'm working on and things that arise that I think would be of interest to my students. Those are all there. You can peruse that at your leisure. Yep, we have a few seniors chiming in. That's so good. So good. Teresa, wish I could sign up. Can't right now. How often do you offer it? I did answer that. Generally spring and fall. So Angel's asking, not on topic, but wondering if you're going to be at the Puyallup Sew and Stitchery Expo. Is that the one? There's one in November, a Rusty Barn that I'm going to, and then the late February, early March one, the Sew Expo, I will be at that one as well. Yes. Oh, we have another stranger. Let me just eliminate him. Cindy from Hamilton, Sharon, I made a sample quilt sandwich during the masterclass, easy to refer back to. Thank you, Susan. That's a good idea, Sharon. In the back of my mind, when I clone me and have more time that way, in the back of my mind, I would like to create a quilt top that's kind of sampler style that has areas where you could quilt different designs in, because I think it would be a fun way to sort of collect these designs as you learn them and look back at them later. So Lissa, I'm 68 and just got my long arm in July this year. There you go. Absolutely. And Anne, hope to take the course in spring. That's fine, Anne. I certainly don't intend this to be a pushy message by any means. I'm just here to answer your questions if the timing is not right for you or if the course material is not right for you. I totally understand that. I realize I'm not for everyone. So, okay, we are at half an hour unless I see more questions. I will mention, of course, I started this live brand new fresh, so there is no description, but you can go to my website, stitchedbysusan.com, and there's a learning tab with the masterclass there. So if you want to read more information or what is in all of the 6 modules, there's a whole class syllabus there. There's some frequently asked questions as well and more details. And I'm just at the other end of an email yet this week while enrollment is open. Actually, I think it closes at midnight tonight. But I'm at the other end of an email if you have more detailed questions and you need more answers. So info@stitchedbysusan.com, and I will answer those emails as quickly as I can. Kimberly wanted to meet you in Houston, but not going to be able to make it, so I'll have to send you a virtual hug. Aw, I'm sorry you can't make it. Cheryl, I'm 74 and chomping at the bit. Good deal. I'm so happy to see all you guys joining. So yeah, first module drops tomorrow and first live is next Tuesday. So we'll just dive right in, everyone. So I will be back tomorrow with another live session. I've still got a few more topics on the Hob, so I'm just going to keep going as long as it works within my schedule. I am leaving for Houston on Sunday, so some of these are going to be probably from the George Brown Conference Center in Houston, and maybe you'll get a bird's eye view of that too. So as long as I can, and when I can make it fit in a day, I'll do a few more of these lives. So many of you are chiming in that you enjoy them, and I do too. So whatever you're doing today, enjoy it thoroughly, and I will catch up with you again tomorrow.